Every generation remembers its heroes, but the earliest Christians didn't remember generals or kings. They remembered witnesses. The word martyr comes from the Greek martyrs, not victim, but witness. These first century believers didn't seek death. They sought truth, and in doing so, exposed the empire's fear. Behind every martyrdom in the book of Acts and beyond lies the same pattern: accusation, usually false or political; public trial, where the truth was spoken, not hidden; condemnation, the world's rejection of truth; witness, courage that turns judgment into revelation. That pattern began in Jerusalem and rippled through the Roman world. The first martyr wasn't a priest or bishop, but a servant. Stephen, one of 7 deacons chosen to care for widows. Accused of blasphemy, he stood before the Sanhedrin not in defense, but in proclamation. His speech retells Israel's story from Abraham to Solomon and ends with the words, "You always resist the Holy Spirit." The pattern begins here: false accusation, he spoke against the temple; public trial, he testifies to God's faithfulness; condemnation, they stone him; witness, he sees heaven opened and prays, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." Stephen's death transforms persecution into mission. And they were scattered. Acts 8:1. His blood becomes seed. Next comes James, brother of John, among the first called by Jesus. Herod Agrippa I, anxious to please the religious elite, arrests church leaders and kills James with the sword. This is state power aligning with religious anxiety, the eternal alliance of throne and temple against conscience. James's death is brief in the text, but immense in meaning. The first apostle to fall, the first to show that the call, "Follow me," may end at the executioner's block. Peter's story mirrors his master's: denied, restored, imprisoned, and finally crucified. Acts ends with Peter free, but the early church remembered his later arrest in Rome under Nero. According to Eusebius, Peter asked to be crucified upside down, saying, "I am not worthy to die as my Lord." The pattern evolves: faithful witness, imprisonment, a death that becomes teaching. Peter's inverted cross turns shame into symbol. The empire tried to humiliate him. He redefined the meaning of the cross. Paul's story is the most detailed in Acts: beaten, stoned, shipwrecked, tried before kings. When Acts ends, he is under house arrest in Rome. Tradition says he was beheaded, the merciful death granted to Roman citizens. Notice the contrast: Peter crucified, Paul beheaded. 2 men, 2 social statuses, yet one witness. Both die under Nero, whose Rome burned while Christians were blamed and burned with it. Tacitus records that they were dressed in animal skins and torn by dogs, or set aflame as torches by night. The other James, the brother of the Lord, head of the Jerusalem church, was thrown from the temple pinnacle and stoned. When the mob realized he was still alive, they struck him with a fuller's club. He had prayed publicly for his persecutors. His knees, the early writers said, were as calloused as a camel's from constant prayer. Acts says, a great persecution arose. Families fled Judea, some to Antioch, others across the sea. These unnamed martyrs are the invisible architecture of the church: men and women, slaves and merchants, who carried the gospel precisely because persecution scattered them. Under Nero, they became scapegoats for fire, accused of hatred of mankind. Tradition says Thomas was speared in India, Andrew crucified on an X-shaped cross in Greece, Bartholomew flayed in Armenia, Matthew stabbed in Ethiopia. Even if details differ, the pattern holds. Each carried the gospel outward, confronting local powers, dying as foreigners, citizens not of empire, but of the kingdom. Across all their stories, 5 background patterns appear. Witness before power, whether Sanhedrin or Caesar, faith is tested. Law as pretext, blasphemy, sedition, atheism, different names for the same charge, truth spoken without permission, imitatio Christi. Every martyr reenacts Christ's passion, false accusation, silence before authority, forgiveness in death, transformation through suffering. Persecution doesn't kill the church, it refines it. Universal expansion. The blood of martyrs fertilized every road of Rome. Jerusalem's cry became Antioch's mission, Corinth's letter, and Rome's witness. By the year 100, Christianity had no armies, no treasury, no temples of marble. What it had was memory of people who had seen something worth dying for. Stephen's stoning, Peter's inverted cross, Paul's sword, James's club. Together they became the church's theology of courage. The empire ruled with fear. The martyrs ruled by witness. Their pattern endures. Whenever truth is told before power, whenever love stands firm in the face of violence, the ancient fire still burns.
Come wind and fire, with spirit higher, help us to